Woo! How about it, Sixers fans? What a mammoth win by your team, 125-114, a big victory over the New York Knicks in Game 3 in South Philly. And I'm going to tell you something. We're, of course, the Sixers Talk podcast brought to you by Wilmington University. But, Ben, there were a lot of Knicks fans in the arena tonight. And I'm talking about, Knicks fans travel, particularly when it comes to the games here in Philly. When their team's good, when they're not, they still show up. But there were more Knicks fans here than I have ever seen. They were getting rowdy in the parking lot. People were seeing them around town. They brought energy and all types of, and we saw a lot of that in that first quarter with the way these two teams were battling. But a big win for the Sixers to get, not to be lost in any of this, is the 50 points by Joel Embiid. The guy is injured physically. He has an ailment that Adrian Wojnarowski talked about, Bell's palsy, which, if you're not familiar with it, is basically a side of his face is paralyzed, partially paralyzed. But man, is a lot of places we can start here, but got to show some love to Embiid and all he was able to do on a night like tonight. You got the numbers there in front of you, sir. What did he have with that 50 points?
He had a 50 burger. He had a fit, and people call him a foul shot merchant or free throw merchant. It's not his fault that the Knicks kept on fouling him. That is not his fault. He put up a good game. I believe he had 8 or 9 rebounds. I can't remember.
8 rebounds, 50 points, 4 assists, and a block.
So, no, it was, he played phenomenal. Our last podcast, I said him and Maxey need to both hit 30 points. Maxey came up a little short. He still had a good game. And Embiid was like, nah, I got this. Hop on my back, boys. And that's something I wanted to see from Embiid for the longest time. And then I said it was needed to be a third person to drop around 15 points. And they got that. It was Kelly Oubre. He had a nice game. So he had 15 exactly, actually. Tobias Harris and Kyle Lowry had 8 and 9, but Embiid really carried them through. And every time the Knicks made a run, he went back down, punished them down low. He had a big group in that third quarter. It seemed like he hit 3 threes. And when the Sixers really caught fire, when the Knicks was trying to inch their way back into the game. So it was what was needed to get a win in this series.
Embiid's third quarter, 18 points, 7 of 8 from the field, 4 for 4 from 3, 112.5% true shooting percentage. It was a heck of a showing coming out of the locker room. His 50-point game puts him in a list of just 3 players all time, 3 centers all time to score 50 or more. Wilt Chamberlain did it 4 times. Nikola Jokic did it once. And now Joel Embiid topping that 50-point plateau or reaching that 50-point plateau as a center. And he's the first player to ever do it with fewer than 20 field goal attempts. So he goes 13 of 19 and just turns this whole series on its head. A shame that he had to expend so much energy in order for them to get a win. But thank God for Cam Payne coming through and waking this team up. He was a big energy boost for this squad. And that corkscrew 3-point shot of his, when the first one went down, I said, we might have something. Because Buddy Hield looked like he was sleepwalking out there. He looked shook. This is his first time experiencing playoff basketball in over 600 NBA games. So, hey, maybe it's not for everyone, because Buddy Hield shot a catch and shoot 3 from the near side 3-point line. And after he shot it, for some reason, he backpedaled into the crowd. It just was weird. His body language is bothering me. I'm not excited to see him on the floor, considering the intensity that the Knicks are bringing. And they needed somebody on the Sixers side to match that intensity. It was Cam Payne. But let's get back to Embiid. We could talk about Cam Payne in a bit. But he does all this, obviously hobbled, limping around. We see the big brace underneath his tights. He is experiencing this condition with the Bell's palsy that's forced him to wear sunglasses and kind of protect himself from the light. And all that going on, he ends up losing his cool a couple times in the first quarter. Once with Isaiah Hartenstein, kneeing him in the groin, which was incidental contact, but still an offensive foul that the referees called. And then he's on the ground and grabs Mitchell Robinson's legs as he's going up for a dunk, which could have gotten him ejected from the game. The referee
very
saw,
fortunate.
yeah, the referee saw it differently. Embiid said after the game that he really wanted to stop Robinson from landing on him. That's why he tried to grab him before he jumped. And there's maybe some video evidence to give some credence to that. But Embiid ended up landing on Mitchell Robinson on the other end, causing him to leave the game. Embiid has been on the wrong end of that as well, as we talked about in the past when Jonathan Kuminga landed on his leg, which is basically what sat him down for most of the season and caused him to miss so many games and end up getting meniscus surgery. But all that to say, Herculean is probably overused at times, but a Herculean effort by Joel Embiid, whether he got it from the free throw line, the 3-point line, the mid-range layups, whatever you want to say, he was ready to take on this entire Knicks team, literally and figuratively. I was reading his lips when the whole situation broke out with Mitchell Robinson, and Dante DiVincenzo's in his face, and he's like, "You want to go? You want to go?" And then somebody else comes over. I think it was Josh Hart you want to go? And Embiid was on tilt, bro. He was ready to do anything necessary if it came to throwing blows or flagrant fouls or what have you. That first quarter was really intense. And if you're a fan and you pay for the price of admission and you're sitting there in the seats, the building was ridiculously electric. I went down there and walked around a bit. I was down there for the national anthem. I was there as fans were filing in. And this is one of those games where usually when the game is tipping off, there's a line of cars on 95 waiting to get into the arena. That was not the case here. Everybody was in their seats. Ron Brooks, double amputee, Eagle Scout, who sings the national anthem often here at the Wells Fargo Center, had it rocking. I mean, people were going crazy. And it was just a fun atmosphere to be in. A little bit trepidatious, had you a little bit uncomfortable at times, but man, it was a crazy atmosphere. And Embiid was really the catalyst for it all.
He was. And I mentioned it earlier. It was the big thing that we've been doing this pod for 5 years now since I moved back to the area. It's the thing I wanted to see from Embiid when things aren't going great or when the team's back is against the wall in a playoff game. Look around, whether you win the game or not, saying, "Hey, get on my back, boys. I'm going to take us to the finish line." I've seen Jokic do it. I've seen Jimmy Butler do it. Seen Tatum do it. Seen Giannis do it. Dame do it. Steph Curry do it. Yo, just get on my back. I'm going to take you to the finish line. And doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win, but you're going to do everything. And when the game is over, it's not like, man, if I could have just did a little bit more. And those guys, the team got on his back. He took them, again, inside, outside. He's playing great defensively. The one blemish in tonight's game was pulling down Mitchell Robinson. The Hartenstein, the knee, that was completely incidental.
Right.
But, okay, maybe he didn't want Mitchell Robinson to fall on him. But, like, if he would have got ejected for that, they would have called that flagrant too. I know you mentioned it earlier. Like, I guess the referee saw it differently. But, like, if anyone in the league does that and they get ejected, I'm not arguing against it. Like,
right.
Yo,
you just stating the facts. It's being honest, bro. That was a dicey play, borderline dirty,
really dangerous. Like, if you do that at the playground, like, a fight's going to break out. If this was 90s basketball, a fight would have broke out. So that's the only blemish on tonight. That's like the only non-bright spot I have for Embiid before Game 3. So if he can carry this momentum, the Sixers carry this momentum. Game 4, Sixers right back in this one, baby.
I just want to read this tweet from Adrian Wojnarowski. Sixers star Joel Embiid has been treated for a mild case of Bell's palsy for the past week. The condition began during the play-in victory over Miami, but he has wanted to keep it private to avoid distractions for his team. there had been some speculation about why he had been wearing sunglasses and whether there was an issue with his eyes, but that was related to the Bell's palsy, which impacts facial muscles in one half of the face. So all that all that into the 50-point game. I'm really curious. Obviously, we're hoping this is a long Sixers playoff run, and what Embiid is going through, what we've seen other players go through. These sports at this high level, they stay with you. This is not for the faint of heart. This dude might have some of these injuries. Hopefully he's, okay walking and everything after his career is over. But this is stuff that could last with him and linger and be, nagging injuries down the road. I'm really curious to see, like I said, I hope these Sixers have a long playoff run, how this might affect him playing in the Olympics for Team USA. Because you can't go play in the Olympics and then sit out the beginning of the season, or at least as a Sixers fan, ownership, what have you, coaching staff, I wouldn't want my franchise player going to play in the Olympics for Team USA and then, having to miss the beginning of next season or some of the season, training camp or what have you. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out. Remains to be seen at this point, but a huge game. And I talked about campaign. You mentioned Tyrese Maxey. It was really like a slugfest there until the Sixers were able to pull away. Some really interesting moments there where the Knicks, I thought, had a chance to pull away. They were up at the half, and the third quarter really told the story in this one as the Sixers turned it up, and specifically Embiid turned it up. Maxey was a nice foil and hit some great shots, but Jalen Brunson had it going on after he hadn't had great shooting nights the first two games of the season, but he goes 13 to 27 from the floor for 39 points. This could as easily been a Knicks win as it was a Sixers win had it not been for Joel Embiid and, like you said, Tyrese Maxey chipping in with his 25 points. But they needed others to get involved. Kelly Oubre showed up. I was so happy to see him feeling good doing the kiss. He had that weird alley-oop that he caught midair over Isaiah Hartenstein, I think it was, starting Steen. I want to pronounce his name correctly, but just doing athletic stuff, hitting threes, playing good defense, blocks, and the stuff we hadn't seen from him up in New York, he was able to do here in game 3. And campaign comes in and ignites, the crowd. And all of a sudden we're looking for the Sixers to go up and tie this thing up on Sunday at 1:00.
That's a big one. Another big game. Excuse me. Another must win, in my opinion. You got to get this game.
You're looking at a gentleman's sweep if you don't win that one.
You got to get the Sixers. Got to get this game at home. It's 1:00. Tip off. Just build off this momentum. Another monster game from Embiid. Not expecting another 50 burger. Hoping for a 50 burger. That'd be
Hopefully
great.
They won't need him to do that. You know what I'm saying?
But like if Maxey drops at least 25, 30, better. But it's really key for a third guy to step up and get into the mid-teens. I said it the last podcast, and I think that's key. Embiid and Maxey can't go for 60 between them or 70 between them, and no one else get in the double digits or get the 10 and disappear for the rest of the game. That can't happen moving forward. So if they can play solid defense, and you see, Jalen Brunson finally had a good game, but it wasn't. Hart had 20 points, but it wasn't a bunch of Knicks players with 20-plus points. It was 2 and a bunch in the low teens or just over double digits. So playing that good defense, not letting everyone else go crazy, even if Jalen Brunson goes off or has a good game like tonight, I think that's the key for the Sixers moving forward.
And it's a bit of a bad formula for the Sixers. I talked about, which actually happened and came to fruition tonight, the fact that so many Knicks fans would travel down for the game, which they did, and the Sixers might get booed, which they did at a certain point. And not only are the home fans booing the Sixers, the other fans that traveled down are also glomming on to that. So all of a sudden, the entire home arena is against the Sixers. But, with that said, they really responded and showed up when it mattered. I thought they had some defensive lapses that they really have to fix because it was just a lot of they didn't quite complete their defensive slides and stay in front of players, and they, you know, try to, swipe and reach for steals or to try to slow the opposing player down instead of keeping sound defensive position and staying in front and not reaching and, just being a wall or being big and just to contest that way instead of, you know, Kyle Lowry got a flagrant foul because he hit Dante DiVincenzo in the head. You can agree or disagree with that. He had a little scratch, a little bloody mark near his eye. I mean, that's all the refs need to see. So it's going to take a little bit more discipline from the Sixers in order to control this series and control game 4 and any games thereafter, because they have a few defensive lapses that I think are easy to fix. And, having Joel Embiid as the last line of defense is helpful with that. But I think that one of the things is that these Nova Knicks guys, they are content and happy playing here in South Philly. They've been at the Wells Fargo Center for a ton of games, big, middle, and in between. And there's no fear in coming here and playing because they are so familiar with this. So it's kind of a tough scenario for the 76ers because they're not only playing against a team that's better than them because they're the 2 seed, but they're also playing against some guys who have a little bit of, feel and rhythm here in South Philly playing at the Wells Fargo Center. So hopefully the Sixers are able to put together a game where they can kind of take game 4 and build momentum toward game 5 instead of it being a game more so like tonight where they had to scratch and fight and claw just to get the lead, keep it, flagrant fouls and near technicals and, all the arguing and with the refs and things like that. If they could just get a game where they can go closer to wire with being on point with their defensive switches, the defensive slides, taking care of the ball on the offensive end and not committing too many turnovers, I think that will benefit them so much more going into game 5 if they can have a good game in game 4.
So you want an easier game 4.
Bro,
you don't need a knockout, slug
that
out
first
fight.
quarter was nuts. It could have gone either way. It could have gone either way in that first quarter. Like the referees see it differently. Embiid's ejected because in short order, he had kneed Isaiah Hartenstein in the groin and grabbed Mitchell Robinson midair. So it was like in short order. It was like, and he was also like ready to square off and beat up whoever. And he had 3 fouls. So that was something that also I overlooked.
Are you saying he's been spending too much time with Draymond Green? Is that what you're?
Well, the Knicks front court also was in big foul trouble. That compliments of Joel Embiid. They got a friendly whistle with Joel. Tyrese Maxey is still getting robbed out here with the whistle that he gets, but they need a smoother game, a game where they can kind of back off of Joel carrying them, maybe rest him a little bit in the fourth quarter. Tyrese Maxey explodes. They get some of those momentum plays, but I think the Knicks are more athletic, man. They just look more athletic, particularly on the second chance points and offensive rebounds and things like that. I don't know if the Sixers can match their athleticism. It kind of they have to outsmart them a little bit. Very tough to do that with the savvy that Jalen Brunson brings to the floor. But I think they have to kind of pick their spots, be a little bit better in the areas that they're weak in. And hopefully those things can give them more momentum and contribution from some of the other guys like Tobias Harris and things like that who can,
hold your breath.
Yeah, I mean, he missed the layup that made me really upset. Yeah, that made me really upset.
The Knicks, they are a more athletic team. It's also a younger team. Like it's a significantly younger team. And since they're younger, like maybe they got more energy in the tank, whatever. But just can't be out hustled like they were in that first game with all the offensive rebounds they got to box out and grab those boards, dive on the ground for those loose balls. I hear what you're saying. I said it about a third person just chipping in. I'm not going to hold my breath with Tobias Harris. I know you, along with
a Toby game, has to be coming. There got to be a Toby game coming, man. He going to go out sad in his Sixers, in the history books.
These are the Toby games. Like,
4 for 10, 5 for
these
12.
hard to tell me games. Like, okay.
I mean, he's making too much money to keep giving him those type of games. And it's not even about the money. It's that he's better than that, man. He is definitely better than that.
I see it differently.
Playoffs are a different animal too, but he's better than that.
Some people are just good on a bad team. Some people don't perform well in the playoffs, no matter what sport it is. And that's life. That's part of it. Not everyone can turn it up a notch in the playoffs when everyone's watching, when the defense is a little tougher. The whistles are, the refs allow a lot more things to go. Like we see it in every sport, not just basketball. You see it in football. You see it at Clayton Kershaw, one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Postseason comes around, things get a little tight. It happens. Maybe I'm not calling Tobias Harris one of the greatest forwards of all time, like Clayton Kershaw is one of the greatest pitchers, but he's just like this all the time. But yeah, so it's just part of life, and I hope he can go out a little better. Like, I don't wish ill. Some people think I'm a Tobias Harris hater. It's not that. I just see it for what it is.
Yeah, man. I agree with you. Hopefully they can come out and play better. Let's play some Bills really quick because we are, of course, brought to you by Wilmington University. We should have gotten to this earlier in the podcast, but it's after 1 o'clock here as we're recording this. So I'm a little drained, but very happy and excited that the Sixers got the win. We are brought to you by Wilmington University, online or in person. Check out their open house on Wednesday, May 1st. Details at wilmu.edu/open house. Celebrity cook Steve Martirano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martirano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations for Martirano's Prime on Open Table. The reason why we're taping at 1 o'clock is that this was NFL draft day as well, as the Eagles picked Quinyon Mitchell out of the University of Toledo. I was hosting 2 hours of pre-draft coverage, and then after the draft, we did an hour and a half. So all that had to happen after I watched the Sixers game, and now we can tape the podcast. Thank you, Ben, for staying up and being a professional and helping make this come together. We will bring you more Sunday after the Sixers tie this thing up. Fingers crossed. I will not be a jinx. Fingers crossed they will tie this thing up. And I am very excited about Sunday's game because there's something so nostalgic to me about that Sunday basketball matinee. And it just takes me back to, watching those games on, regular TV, NBC or whatever it was on. And I hope that the Sixers can bounce back and Joel Embiid can get as close to whatever 80, 95% as he possibly can. But we'll be here. Any final thoughts before we bounce out of here?
No, man. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, sir. I'll be here with more draft coverage tomorrow. So I only get Saturday off, but bringing all that the people need to see. For Noah Levick, who has got an article out on the website right now, recapping all the craziness that happened at the arena. For Ben Berry, check that out. Noah Levick on NBC Sports Philadelphia.com. For Ben Berry, I'm Danny Pommells. Thanks for listening and watching the Sixers Talk podcast, brought to you by Wilmington University. Wilmu Works. Go Sixers.